Hello, YouTubers. This is a quick fun session where I get to show you what it's like to kind of take the engineering standard that we also call the standard and apply it to different frameworks and different paradigms and different programming languages. Today, I was hanging out with a bunch of friends, and a friend of mine who started doing some development in Golang we kind of explored the idea of the possibility of applying the standard to Golang. Golang is a programming language developed by Google. It's super performant. One of the people that actually are engaged in designing this language was one of the creators of the C programming language. I think his name is Brian Thompson or something like that. So I talked to my friend a little bit and he said, no, it's impossible that you can take the concepts of the standard, the engineering standard, and actually apply it to something like Golang. So I was like, okay, challenge accepted. Let's go ahead and see, what it takes to actually implement something like this in Golang. And I'm not gonna lie to you, like it took me about 2 hours just to kind of wrap my head around some of the concepts. But eventually you have certain concepts in your mind. You figure it out. You kind of get to the bottom of it. So how do I start? There's a thing called Goland. Goland is an IDE, that allows you to write, software in Go language, and it's a whole bunch of it's one of the series of the JetBrains where they have all these different IDEs for all kinds of different languages. If you've heard of IntelliJ for Java, and then they also have I think IntelliJ for Scala. There's all kinds of different, even for .NET, they have things for .NET. They have a whole bunch of different IDEs to support different languages. So if you think that Visual Studio is the only IDE, it is definitely the most capable and most integrated with everything, but it's not the only IDE that you can use for writing in C Sharp. So you have all this C Lion for C, you have app code, IntelliJ, PHP Storm for PHP, Python, Writer. Writer is the one that you can use to kind of write in C Sharp. Writer right here, it allows you to write in C Sharp. So anyway, Goland, went and installed Goland, and I basically started looking at, creating a project in Golang, right? So I'm gonna create a new project in here. Let's see if you guys can see my screen. And this is here, demo, standard, Golang, right? There are gonna be some funny moments. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like some things got me thinking, and to my head, I was literally thinking like, why would you do it this way? Like, why would you do anything this way? But some other things were, I was like, okay, all right. I don't really love it, but it works. Okay, so let me increase the screen here just for the people watching on their phones, so I can just show them what we're dealing with here. Okay, so 175 specifically. Let me go back to my streaming situation here. There you go. Okay, I think that should be good enough. Okay, so Golang in Goland, I have a tiny project here on the side just in case I forget things. But let's do this. So I'm gonna go here and create a new directory. I'm gonna call it standard Golang dot source or dot core. So that's where I'm gonna put my source code. But I'm gonna go and do also standard Golang dot tests. So I'm creating two different projects in here, one of them for the tests and one of them for the project itself. The people that are familiar with the standard, they know that we have brokers and we have let's see here, we have services and we have models like this, and maybe we have controllers or clients, whatever you want to do, let's just say clients, right? So I'm building a simple integrated development, sorry, I'm building a simple app, right? And if you have never watched any of my videos before, and you're very foreign to this concept, the way how I architect my software is that I break it into dependencies and purposes and exposures. So the dependencies are basically wrappers around whatever you're working with. So if you're talking to a database, then it's a storage broker. If you're talking to an email server, it's a notification or email broker, and so on and so forth. And then there are services, and these where you do the validation and the intelligence and all that. And then you have exposures. And these exposures are basically clients, controllers. If you're doing a web API, if you're doing something like that, it's all great, right? In C Sharp, so this is super simple because I've been working with the language for over 20 years, 22 years now, I think. So that's a long time, to kind of wrap your head around how things are done. But what was a good exercise for me is to basically be able to play around with a different language and apply the same concepts as an engineering standard to the same language, which was really hilarious and fun. So let me just show you here what I'm going to do. I'm gonna go here and say storages. So this is my storage brokers, and then I'm gonna go here and create an I storage broker. There is no naming convention as far as I know. If you do Alt, I think it's Alt Shift dot, it will zoom in a little bit for you, so you just really see what I'm doing, right? So this is just an I storage broker. How do you define an interface? You go and say type I storage broker, and that's an interface like this. So far so good. Magic, right? And then inside that guy, I want to implement a function called insert student async. Let's just say insert student because they're really asynchronous, right? I need a model in here. So I'm going to create a new directory. I'm going to call it students. And under students, I'm going to go and create a Golang model called student. Okay, how do we define this model? It's also a type, right? And it's student struct, right? And inside that struct, I can define things like I can go say ID, which is an int, right? I can go and say name, which is a string, and so on and so forth. I think that's how you do it, I think. So type struct, I'm gonna try to not look, yeah, I think there's no comma in here. Yeah, there you go. And I don't know if that's like, I think that's, Golang. It's basically doing a little bit of magic. So when you save, it does the formatting for you. I hope that's an option that we can get rid of. Something crazy I noticed though, if you do this while you're doing, like, I guess, see, if I go and kind of push the open bracket squigglies like this and click save, it'll go format it for me, right? In some places, it considers this as an error, which is hilarious. That's super hilarious to me. Like, why are you doing that? But anyway, that's a student model. So this will take a student model. So you type in the variable name first, unlike C Sharp, and then you type in the model. And I can't get rid of this guy. For the life of me, I tried. It's not working. Like, I just want to say, just give me my student model. Nope, you have to kind of call the entire thing like that. Okay? Now, you want to also define, let me zoom out a little bit because it's getting a little here. You want to define the return type. So you want to go like this and say, here's my return type. So here is your input, and this here is your return type. It's a mishmash of different paradigms I've seen in Scala and, Haskell and languages like these. It has a little hint of Python, I guess. It's weird. It's a weird language, especially like if you've been doing something for like 2 decades, working with something like that, you're gonna have some opinions about how the syntax is working and all that. Okay, so that's the interface. Let's go implement the actual function, like the actual broker, right? So I'm gonna go here and say storage broker, right? And that's gonna be a type storage broker. There is no inheritance. It does some weird thing when it comes to inheritance. I'll tell you about that in a second. So that's a struct. So this guy doesn't have anything. Like you can't go in there and say implement the function. How you want to implement that function? You want to go here and say this. Watch this. So you're saying this is a function in the storage broker. So in the storage broker, like you're adding after the fact, right? You're basically going and saying this is my storage broker. And then I have a function in that storage broker called insert student, right? And this insert student will take a student as an input parameter. Let's zoom out a little bit more because we're getting out of space here. And then it's it's returning a student like this. So this is a function. Now watch this. If I put the squiggly at the next line, it gets mad. It actually errors out. I have to keep it up here. Now that sucks. That was a sucky thing to find out about. I did not like that part. But here's the interesting part though. So in order, like somehow, as you can see here in IntelliJ or Golang, is basically saying, yeah, I know you're inheriting this from the interface. How? I don't know. It's magic. Like if you're using that same method name, then automatically you are inheriting from that interface. Like if you go to that struct, it'll take you to the interface. Super weird, right? I'm just gonna go ahead in here and say return the student. I'm not really doing anything with it. No semicolons, nothing. Can I fat arrow it? I hope to God I can. I don't know if I can. Let's see if we can do it. Yeah, why would we fat arrow maybe? Thin arrow? Nope, no fat arrows, no thin arrows. You always have to put the the squigglies. Okay. So that's our student broker, right? So it's an insert student that implements that interface somehow. Somehow it implements that interface, which means that if I have multiple interfaces, how does it know which is which, right? Like if I go here and say type iStorage broker 2 interface, and I go and say insert student like this, which is a student with a variable that returns student. How does it know which one I'm implementing? See, it's still referring to the other one. Is it because of the name? Is it because I have no idea. Is it because this one was implemented first? So what if I took this one away? Would that be, oh, I actually misspelled this. Okay, let's freak it out. Let's make it freak out. Okay, there you go. Insert student. So now, am I implementing two interfaces? Super confusing. Okay, you don't know which is which. It's very confusing. Anyway, so it doesn't seem to really care about it doesn't care about the type of your interface. It doesn't really care the least about that. But anyway, let's just move on. This is a fun game, right? So this is a simple function that inserts a student. This is great. Let's go and create a service, right? So under services, I'm going to go and say students. Of course, I'm using the naming convention of .NET because Golang naming convention is kind of funny and weird. Actually, let me rename this to foundations. So foundations, foundation services. And then I'm going to go under directory and say students. And then I'm going to create an interface, iStudent service. So this is a student service. So I'm going to go here and say type iStudent service. And this is an interface. And this guy doesn't really have anything other than add student, which takes student as a parameter and then returns a student as a type. So that's your interface. So far, so good. No problem there. I'm going to go back into the concrete. So this is student service. Here's where it gets weird, weird, weird. Okay, I have a type which is student service. Okay, so that's a struct. Okay, that guy needs to have an iStorage broker injected into it, right? So you're gonna now play the game of references. Which reference am I passing? And I want to pass by reference and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna go here and say, well, I have a property actually in here called an iStorage broker, right? And that's my storage broker, like this. Okay. Golang doesn't have constructors. It doesn't understand that. So you're going to have to go implement a function and you can name it whatever you want. So I'm just going to go here and say func, right? I wonder if I can name it the same name as the service. That would be fine. Student service. I haven't tried that, but why not, right? So this is my student service, right? And my student service initializer, I'm going to call it student service like this, right? And this guy will take an iStorage broker as a parameter, an input parameter. Storage broker as an input parameter. And then we're gonna basically, and it doesn't return anything. We don't want it to return anything. Oh no, it did allow me to have a function that matches the class name. Great, we're hacking this thing. So what is this gonna do? It's gonna take that student service and it's gonna give me the storage broker, and I'm gonna assign that storage broker to whatever came from the outside world. Right? So whatever I passed in as a constructor, this guy is gonna pick it in and basically work with it. Cool. I think there's a point there where I have to go and say, oh, by reference or something like that. I could steal from the other code because that one is like pure C. It's like C and C++ pretty much what you're doing there. Yeah, so you basically want to keep the reference of the existing. So this is like a pointer or something like that. I hate pointers. I'm not going to try to explain it. You're just basically saying I'm passing this by reference. Okay. So this is that, but then I also want to go and implement so this is student service, and this is my student service like this, and I want to implement this add student function. So add student, which should inherit from that interface. So that's your student, and it's returning a student like this, and then we're opening the parentheses, and I'm just going and saying, watch this. This is me throwing an exception. It's called panic, which I really love. I love that name. So instead of throw exception, it says panic, right? And then I'm going to go here and say not implemented exception, or not implemented, I don't know, not implemented exception, or error, whatever. So panic is like, for .NET folks, is the equivalent of saying throw not implemented exception. Okay, so far so good. I need to go write a test. So under test, I'm going to go and say here's a directory of services. And then I'm going to create another directory here for something called mocks, because mocking in Golang is in a very ancient, really primitive state. Like, think Neanderthals. Like, it's still, there's no support. Like, I don't know, like, I'm looking through the documentation and it just freaked me out. So I said I'm gonna go come up with my own mocking methodology. But then again, I only learned this language 2 hours ago, so I could be completely wrong here. There could be some awesome libraries out there. Who knows, right? Okay. In the mocking, I want to go and mock under brokers, under storages. So I'm basically keeping the same kind of structure, but under storages, I'm going to go and do a file like this. I'm going to go and say storage broker mock. Right? You get to appreciate the libraries that you use on daily basis and take them for granted in .NET and C# when you see things like that. Okay, what is this mock? It's a type, so it's storage broker mock, like this. So it's a struct, and look what I'm going to do here. Here comes the hacky stuff. I'm going to basically go here and say, I want the passed in student to verify that this student has actually been passed in. So I'm going to go here and say passed in student, which is a student model. That's one. I also want, added student call count, which is an int. So I want to know how many times I called, add student or insert student call count, because that's on the storage broker, right? It's a mock. Now we need to mock this function itself. We need to go and say, I want to mock the function. You can't just go and mock the behavior like you do there. You're going to go and say func, and then here is your storage broker. Not this one. Storage broker mock. So that's my storage broker mock, like this. And then we have a function called, the function has to match, so insert student, it has to match the actual interface, so it knows that you're actually passing a function that's supposed to match the interface. If your brain is kind of freaking out in panic mode, that's very normal. That's very true. Okay, so let's take this out. Okay. So this guy is expecting to do something for me. I'm gonna go here and say, oh, well, then I need that reference again, then, like this. So I'm gonna go here and say, okay, this storage broker mock, I wanna go and say the insert call count is plus plus. So I'm incrementing the insert count. So every time this gets called, it increments. But also I wanna go and say the storage broker mock dot inserted passed in student will equal the same student that I passed in, and then I'm gonna return the same student. So I'm mocking the call. I'm not really doing anything with it. So this is just a mock class that I've written here to count how many times the insert student has been called, and then tell me which student has been passed in. Okay, now let's go write a test. Test is gonna be fun. The test has some fun thing that I found in it. So let's just go to foundations. And then under foundations, I'm adding in students. And then under students, watch this. If I'm writing a test, I can't just go and say student service tests. You have to go underscore and you have to say test like that. Like if you don't rename your file this way, it's not going to work. Why? I don't know, but it just won't work. Okay? Now, let's go and write a test. There's a little kind of weird thing that I need to kind of steal from the existing test just to show you what we're dealing with here. So let's go here and say, okay, func, right? Okay, the second thing, you have to say test in the beginning of the name of the test method that you're writing. If you go and say should add student like this and go and say, go ahead and write a test for me, it's not going to be happy. It's going to be like, nope, you can't do that. Why? Because you have to say test first. Now I'm going to see, as soon as I typed this, it started to show this play button for the testing, right? What's the other error that it's complaining about? This one is one of my favorite. It's complaining that I have my squiggly in the next line. Like if I go and put it in here, no problem. But if I put it down here, it freaks out. so, so you have that part. Now, why is this guy still airing out? Because you have to pass in, what is it? The test, injecting the test framework, I guess. So there's a variable called testing, and I'm doing like this pointer, and I'm going and saying testing.t. What is this t? We don't know. It's just it's a t. And now you have a test that's happy. Like if you go and run this test right now, it's going to pop up something at the bottom here that says, oh, that you have a test and it's great. It's very happy. There it is. See? Pass. So you have a test. Okay, so that's how you test things in Go. All right, but that's not how we're going to do it. We're going to go and say given, when, then, and I need to initialize a bunch of things. What's the first thing I want to initialize? I want to initialize my storage broker. So this is going to be a storage broker mock. Okay, that's my storage broker. And that's how you initialize a thing. Like in C#, you could do this. You don't do that in here. You just do it like this. And there is no new. There is new, but you don't use it in here this way. Okay, so why is this guy complaining? Let's see here. This storage broker mock. Oh, this guy is erroring out because you're not using it yet. So this is one way to confuse the engineers in a way. It was a little frustrating for me just to see, you know, that you're erroring out because I'm not using a variable. Okay, you're trying to make me keep the code clean and not have unused variables, but is it worth an error though? It's a little opinionated language, I have to say. Okay, so that's this guy. Great. Now I want to go initialize the actual service that I'm testing. So that's student service like this. Okay, and this student service will need to be initialized with something, right? I think we could probably, maybe I could be wrong, we could probably go and say storage broker. Oh, sweet, I can do that in here. And we can go and say pass in storage broker to this. Will it know the difference? Or should I just call it storage broker mock so it knows? There. Will it let me do that? Oh, it's already knowing? Oh man, that's magic. I don't know about that magic. Storage broker mock like this. Okay, now why is it freaking out? Let's see. Cannot assign a value to the unexported field. Okay, can you help me? Can you tell me what to do? Let's see. Nope. Okay, it's okay. We did it this way, so we can go and say student service dot student service. So this is our initialization, and then I'm gonna pass in the storage broker mock in here, right? And I think I need to kind of pass it by reference like this. Do you see that little ampersand? That's me passing it by reference. Okay. See, now that I'm seeing it this way, now it also looks crappy. Maybe I should call it initialize. Let's call it initialize. Fine. Yikes. So now we can call this initialize. Okay. So that's the storage broker. That's the service. I'm passing in the broker to the service. Great. Now I need a student, right? Let's go here and say var input student equals student like this, and I'm gonna give that student some stuff. I'm gonna give it an ID like 10. I don't expect there's even a randomization library in here like we use with fluent assertions, but this is like a proof of concept. Like this is me trying to tell you, oh, here's another hilarious one for you. You have to put a comma even if there's no incoming property in here. Why? I don't know. And as you guys service like this. Okay. And as you guys may have noticed, you know, the this guy's airing out. You'll get used to it. It beats you up to the point where your brain starts getting wired this way. So this is airing out because you're not passing it as a parameter. Okay, let's go into the win section. So student service dot add student and then input student like this. So this is me kind of doing the win part. Let me zoom out a little bit if I can so people can see the whole test. Okay, cool. Now what should we do? How do you do the assertions in Golang? It's super primitive. You go there and you say if here var actual student equals, right? And I want to say that's a student type. It's going to tell me you don't need it, and I'm going to be like, it's okay. I want to be explicit about the types that are returned. Like for me as a .NET guy, I'm looking at this, I'm saying, tell me what type this guy's returning. You might say, Hassan, why don't you just go do it like this, like normal people do? I'd be like, I can't. It won't let me. Look, it's not happy, right? Why? Because. Can I do it like this? Nope. Can I do it like this? Nope. You have to use var and the type. Great. And this guy is erroring out, of course, because I'm not using it. Okay. We're getting used to it, right? Maybe I need a new variable here called expected student. That's exactly equivalent to the input student. Why am I making two variables with the same value? Because when I go here, I want to say actual student. If it's not equivalent to expected student, here comes the crazy part. You go in there and you say, give me that T. Do you remember that little testing thing that we have here? We need to go here and say this. Oh, we need parentheses too. Testing dot error, and you can go here and type in whatever, whatever thing you want to do, actual student, expected, right? And then I think it's percentage ampersand q, and then actual ampersand q, like this. And then you're passing in expected student and actual student as parameters. So it knows how super old style printf kind of C language kind of way of doing things. But that's not the only thing that we're validating here, right? We want to also validate that the storage broker mock dot calls inserted call count. If it's not equal to 1, then freak out. Then we need to go and say testing error f right? We should say expected insert student to be called only once, because it could be not called at all. Okay, so that's another one. What else do we have? We have storage broker mock dot call a passed in student. If it's not equal to the input student, we need to say testing error testing.errorf. Yikes. Expected this student to be passed but found this student. Right? So this is that would be input student, right? But the other one is actually storage broker mock dot passed in student. Can I break this so people can see at least what's going on? Let's see. Here is one. Here's the second. Here's the third. Format. Yeah, I guess I can't. There's no named parameters as well. That's fantastic. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna do the same thing here because it's pretty. I want it to be pretty, so it's gonna have to be pretty. Okay, so this test here, this is literally test-driven development, right? Because I don't have an implementation for this yet. I mocked the call, but the call never happened. So let's go and run the tests. I don't know why it's showing green though. That's kind of weird. There you go. Here's an error. What's the error? Not implemented exception. It says I got an error that says, you know, this value is not implemented. Let's have this test kind of give us errors one by one because I'm having fun here. So I'm going to go here and say, well, instead of panic, just return the student that you passed in. Right? So now I'm just returning this. I'm trying to fool the test, trying to play games with the test. So I'm going to go and run it again and see what happens here. Ah, look at this. Now I'm getting more. It says I expected the inserted student to be called once. And I also expected, see, it's collecting all the issues, right? I expected this to be passed, but found nothing. Right? So this is a failure. Right? Okay, let's play again with this test. Let's go here and say, well, you know, I wanna call this storage. So that's student service dot storage broker. This is how you're pulling your dependency. And then you're passing in the student itself, right? And I'm saying return whatever comes back. Let's play with it this way. I'm gonna just create a dummy student, like a dummy student model in here that doesn't have anything in it. This test is still gonna fail because I have not passed in, watch this. I have not passed in, watch this. I said I expected you to see, I expected you to pass this guy, but I found nothing. So still mad, right? Still mad at me, right? So what are we gonna do? We're gonna go back and actually make it pass like normal people. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna put this in here, and then I'm gonna go back to my tests, and I'm gonna run the tests, and boom, now I have all the tests passing. That's test-driven development in Go. If you feel like you need to go take a shower, very rightfully so, I need to make this student as well because it's not explicit about its type, even though the IDE is not happy with it. I also noticed that it creates its own kind of namespace and packages because there's similarity. So instead of me following the same kind of structure, it's kind of impeding me from being able to follow the same structures. It's kind of annoying, right? Anyway, so that's Golang. It's you know, you can implement Golang using the standard. You know, it took me like literally 2 hours just to kind of look around and kind of, you know, kind of zoned out a couple of times just thinking about what went wrong in my life that I'm doing this, you know, on a Friday night. But it's great. You know, take a look at it. I don't know if you like what you see. It's definitely something to kind of start a conversation. I'm pretty sure, like the gurus of Golang, I'm pretty sure I violated a whole bunch of things just doing that. But taking the language and making it follow the standard is not really that hard. You have a broker, you have a service, you have a test, you have a model, pretty much the same thing. If I get too excited about, you know, a different language in the future, I'm probably gonna or maybe I could just make it a series. Like I could just go and say, okay, here's how we're gonna do it for every language in the world. It might probably be useful if I kind of pushed all of this to GitHub. Can I do this? So code maybe VCS share project on GitHub. That's hilarious. Origin, add account, login via GitHub, authorize GitHub, read and write access. Whoa, okay. Authorize JetBrains, use GitHub Mobile, have to log in and do things. Come on, come on, give me something. Any second now, we'll see. Yeah, there you go. Sometimes you have to open the app, your two-factor app, to actually kind of log in. Okay, here we go. And then, okay, so that's authorized now, so hopefully I can create a repository, right? So here you go. And then, building a simple app in Go language, in Golang, according to the standard. According to the standard. And then share. Is it gonna give me the good stuff? What is all that? Oh my lord. Yeah, initial commit, why not? Don't care about that. Maybe get ignore is okay. I don't know. Don't care about that really. And just add, just push it, just just put it out there. It looks like the IDE is simple though. Like pushing these things is super simple. It's saying, hey, I created the project for you. That's great. Here's a project in core. Follows the standard to the last minute of detail. Right? Now, of course, some people are going to be asking the question like, well, where's the entity framework? How do I integrate this with a SQL database? I don't know if there is enough libraries and enough communities to support that. That's not even the point of this video. The point is to show you how you can easily kind of implement standard compliant things according to the standard in any programming language you choose, right? And this is probably the very first time you'll find a repository that's marked in Golang. If I can hide the camera here, you'll see that GitHub is marking this in Golang. It's hilarious, but something for you guys to kind of a little entertaining things for everyone. That's pretty much it. If you find this a little bit interesting, maybe get a little chuckle and a little laugh, out of some of the, kind of naiveness that I'm having, trying to work with this language. This is what happens when a .NET guy, for like 2 decades tries to play with a different programming language or a different framework. If you find this fun, feel free to share it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop a comment in the comment section. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. See you in another video. Take care.